Nice evening. The call this meeting to order for Thursday, December 7th, 2023, 7 p.m., maybe 7:02. Madam Clerk, if you would, call the roll, please.
Trustee Porter?
Here.
Trustee Kunkel?
Here.
Trustee Prigi? Here. Trustee Husani?
Here.
And Trustee Gutierrez?
Here.
Trustee Bancoli is on electronically tonight?
Here.
And the reason?
She fell, so she is at home resting. Yes.
She's legit. Any objections from the board on her attending electronically? No.
No objection.
Hearing none, I assume.
Yep,
Have you called the roll?
I did.
You did, okay. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I got it. Hold on.
All righty. We have a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I'd like to remove one item from the consent agenda,
Okay.
8A16.
8816.
Thank you.
Okay.
And 8A14.
14.
14, yes.
Doink. 14 and 16. Okie doke. Madam Clerk. Christie, if you would call the roll.
Yes. Trustee Kunkel?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
And Trustee Bancoli?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a public hearing on the Village Initiative, Village's tentative January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024 annual budget. We have a motion to open the public hearing on the Village's tentative 2024 annual budget.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Trustee Kunkel?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
And Trustee Bancoli?
Yes.
Thank you. Summary of the tentative 2024 annual budget provided by Remy, the budget officer. My voice sounds strange, doesn't it?
Good evening. I am pleased to present a summary of the 2024 annual budget for consideration and passage this evening, December 7, 2023. The public notice that called for this hearing was published in the Daily Herald on Tuesday, November 21st, 2023. The recommended budget for 2024 total of $98,291,629 in revenues and $98,556,382 in expenditures for all funds. The general fund, the village's main operating fund, is budgeted to receive $49,188,457 in revenues and $49,186,659 in expenditures. This balanced budget, as proposed, has an operating surplus of $1,798. Highlight for the 2024 budget as follows. The general fund unassigned fund balance remain within the village fund balance policy and goals. Current levels of services is maintained. Continuation of scheduling funding for the village pension fund in accordance with actuarial recommendations. The 2024 budget anticipated a 0% property tax increase in the corporate and debt service levy. This is the 8th year that the village has not increased the overall levies, corporate and debt service. Increase to the water and sewer rate of 4.5% per year for the next 4 years along with the changing the infrastructure services that based on meter size with an 8% increase per year for the next 4 years. It will take effect on January 1st, 2024 billing. The increase is necessary to fund the replacement of our aging water main infrastructure lines, which already exceeded their useful life of 50 years. Capital spending plan, which include $3.7 million in street resurfacing and reconstruction, West Branch stabilization and fax to village limit of $1.6 million, with an anticipated grant of $2.3 million from Green Infrastructure Grant Opportunities and the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, and a $6.8 million additional improvement and replacement to the village water and sewer infrastructure, including the UV disinfection system construction, which anticipated a $600,000 grants from the UV system grant Build America grant. The village continued to operate in sound financial condition. This concludes the staff presentation portion of this evening hearing. Available for any question.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any persons desiring to be heard with opportunity to present testimony and examine witnesses? Seeing no one? Pardon me? Are there any wishing to address the board? Hearing and seeing none, I will motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Kunkel?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
And Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Thank you. Presentation, I have a proclamation. Whereas the safety and well-being of our community are paramount importance, and whereas impaired driving continues to be a significant and preventable cause of accidents, injuries, and loss of life. And whereas the month of December is recognized nationally as Drunk Drugged Driving Prevention Month, providing an opportunity for communities to come together to raise awareness about the dangers of driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs. And whereas it is our responsibility as a community to educate and empower individuals to make responsible choices and to promote alternatives to impaired driving. And whereas law enforcement agencies, community organizations, schools, businesses, and individuals across our village have joined forces to combat drunk and drugged driving through education, enforcement, and advocacy efforts. And whereas we acknowledge the pain and suffering that victims and their families endure as a result of impaired driving incidents, and we stand united in our commitment to preventing further tragedies. Now therefore, I, Rodney S. Craig, President of the Village of Hanover Park, do hereby proclaim the month of December as Drunk and Drugged Driving Prevention Month. And I call upon all citizens, community organizations, and business to join in the efforts to raise awareness and report responsible behavior and support initiatives and prevent drug and drunk driving. And we'll be posting this in the police department and within the village, our opinion of drug and drunk driving, to take care of one another and be safe through the holidays.
Thank you.
And I want to acknowledge those who partake. Happy Hanukkah. Is today the first day of Hanukkah? I think it is. Okay.
It's the beginning of it. Starts at sundown.
Oh, at sundown. Okay. So we have sports, entertainment, proximity to house. John.
Town Hall, we have John. You could come up to the mic, please? Yeah,
If you would.
absolutely.
Hank's a great aide. Been a while, John.
I've been saving up things for you.
Oh, okay.
Only one. You've been doing a good job. You want to hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, we hear you.
Gotcha.
I encourage, unfortunately, I have some sporting equipment that is located right next to my bedroom, 5 feet. And I don't always sleep well at night, so I try to get a little nap in the afternoon for at least an hour, or go to bed early. In either case, my neighbor put up a professional soccer ball set of nets right outside of my bedroom. Well, I tried to see if there was a city ordinance in that regard. There doesn't appear to be. There should be, in my opinion, a proximity from someone's home for sporting goods, particularly when the homes are in, 15 feet side to side, 10 on his side, 5 on mine. And I have offered the kids a location in my own yard, just on the other side of the house where I don't sleep. But, I'm not trying to totally spoil them or whatever, but, I would like to say there should be something in this regard where the noise of a sporting event, you ever hear soccer ball kick?
Oh, yes.
Well, try having one kick every couple of seconds with 2 boys outside your bedroom. It's annoying. That being said, I think you get my drift.
I do, John. I'll have to stop by and say hi.
Is that?
I said I'll have to stop by and say hi.
That'd be nice.
Thank you.
Thank you,
for your
sir.
comments, John.
All right.
Okay. Someone.
Okay, sorry. We got Mr. Hank. Hank, come on up.
Rock and
4 seconds for Berkey. When good men don't talk, nothing gets done. Okay, that was 4 seconds of silence. Going back to the rocks, I talked to T.J. Moore yesterday, and he says that the lady, Bancoli, said to put a stop sign, but the problem is the safety of people coming from Irving Park from the east side and turning might jam up the traffic. There's about room for 4 cars, but it still might jam up one, it's jam up 1 car. So I said, their safety is important, but my safety is also important, because I was thinking if they put a stop sign, people would have to stop and then proceed. But here's the thing. It's still, it doesn't stop everybody. Want to break the law, don't stop, and it goes right through into my vehicles. So I'm starting to think, I'm not interested in my vehicles. I'm interested in my life. But then again, if I'm getting into the vehicle or getting out of the vehicle and somebody slams into the car while I'm there, I can get hurt too. But I came up with a better idea. I just put the rocks. I don't have to ask for permission to put them on or take them off. I don't want to put these things that, like in the village hall there, you got these silver, I forgot to put the time on. You got the silver things. They're about 8 inches wide, and they can stop a semi. I was thinking about that. But then again, somebody gets killed, I got to live with the fact that, I stopped them. But I figure I just get the rock. There's a rock over on Countryside and Edgebrook. It got taken away because the guy probably couldn't lift it to put it in another area. If that rock's available, it's still in the village, I like to get it. And I always go by there and I look at that rock, even though it was not mine, I figure it looked like a rock can bring you luck. And it's got like little bright spots. Maybe it's a diamond, I ship it away. But anyway, that's one thing. All about the cops. I'm the guy that's responsible for, I'm the guy that's responsible for the cops winning the World Series. 3 little kids told me, hey, I asked the 3 little kids, and they said, in McDonald's, and they said to me, I said, do you think I should go and lift the curse? So I went. The next year they didn't win because they didn't win half the games. They busted the pitcher's arm. If you got strong pitchers, you can stop the opposition from winning. And so anyway, I'm with the cops, but maybe you should go teach the the Sox too, but the thing is, they'll fire the coach, and I don't want to do that. Conga, I said that I was going to go back to Cuba and going to have the best conga. I don't think I'm going to be able to beat the people of Mardi Gras. Million people celebrating. So I figured we'd start like the Puerto Ricans, they had all flags in their cars. We get the floats, the people in cars with the American flag, whatever American flag they want to fly. We get American flags. Oh, we have the floats. That too from Barrington, Hanover Park, all the way down Barrington Road, going south to North Avenue, and they got this way and this way to go back to where they came from. No taxes. You never own your house if you got to pay taxes on it. Yeah, when you're strong and young, you can pay taxes. But what about when you're 7 years old and you're living in a house and you can't pay the taxes? You got to move out of your own house. It never was your house. The Bears, what they got to do. What the when the end of the season comes, they practice all the formations. By the time the season starts again, Field and the team can do it in their dreams. And the defense fighting the different formations. Insurance on. Oh, we pay all our lives, we pay taxes, and then we got to give away all of our money that we saved, so we had money to live to our descendants, to whoever you want to give it, but you got to give it to the nursing home. And then the government will help you. So I don't understand this, that the government don't want to help people. New Deal, instead of New Deal, we should have great deals. Hey, if Franklin Delano Roosevelt started the Social Security system without a penny in the bank, I mean, we've been giving to the Social Security. I remember, and I want to pay them because the more you pay in taxes, the more you get from the Social Security compensation. Okay, influence of alcohol. Yeah, I know it's tough. The people don't care if you drink. The only problem is people are getting killed, or messed up, or the vehicle's messed up. That's the only reason why we don't want people to drink. But I know how to drink now.
You got to figure out. Okay, thank you, Hank. Your time is.
My time is up. But anyway, just 1 second. I know how to drink. I wake up early in the morning, have 3 beers real fast, and don't leave the house so they don't find a drop of alcohol in me.
Just don't be driving.
Don't worry.
Thank you, Hank. Okay, Anuja. Good evening.
Hi there.
Good evening. I wanted to request your attention for the problems I'm having with my property, the old Long John Silver's property, 800 Irving Park Road. As you know, it's been vacant for over 5 years. I've owned the property for 2 years now and struggled with repeated vandalization and dumping of the property. And it's really coming to a point where I don't know how a business owner is expected to keep fighting the town's problems without being able to secure their property like anybody should be able to, just to even provide basic security. The solutions was to put a fence around the property, which would completely enclose the property, but what's allowed by code is a fence which is 3 foot high and 50% open, and that would not address the problems of recurrent vandalization and dumping. The method to get around that that was suggested was a public hearing. I've been through a public hearing for veranda. It was many months, a big expense, a lot of work, and yes, you would do it for like a major project like that, but I don't know if a public hearing is something I can undertake for something like this. So I'm just forced to go through this process, if it's possible, without a public hearing. In September, we had a purchaser to buy this property for $500,000. He wanted to put a restaurant at the property, but right around that time, the property was vandalized yet again. And when the new or potential buyer heard about the vandalization, it really scared him and he terminated the contract. So it's really up to the mayor and trustees to decide if we want to continue having more vandalization and dumping at the property, or if we want to attract a viable business there, which will be really good for everyone. Some of the other solutions which have been suggested are to put lighting at the property. When I first bought the property, I put motion-centered lighting. In 2 weeks' time, the lighting was stolen. Some other solution has been to put video monitoring. Police has actually caught juveniles red-handed at the property, throwing stones at the windows and with graffiti, and they were not able to do anything because the state of Illinois doesn't allow any corrective measures when you have juveniles. So I understand that we have laws, but when you buy a property in a town, you shouldn't be punished for having to deal with problems which you're not equipped to deal with because you can't take care of basic requirements to deal with that problem. This fence I'm requesting is not for beautification, it's not for adding value to my property, it's to just keep basic security and maintenance of the property. I know there's a lot of issues around the public hearing and if it could be avoided and things like that. But I just wanted to bring to attention from my side what the struggles were.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I have, that concludes Town Hall. The, thanks for the salute, Hank.
Hey, I can teach the Navy SEALs, they're the top of the line. I can teach them to be better for a bottle of champagne, 1996 per roll.
Thank you. Okay, Mayor's report. I'm going to encapsulate a couple things. First of all, to quote President Roosevelt, a day that will live in infamy, that's today. On this day in 1941, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the empire in Japan, when the Japanese invaded Pearl Harbor. My father participated in that war, and it wasn't pretty. So just thought I'd bring that to our attention tonight. Today I wrote the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives to address the illegal use of firearms and to create a common rule on the sale of firearms. Today, Hanover Park was recognized as one of 16 communities with a bronze plaque for our EV initiative, establishing guidelines in an ordinance. Trustee Yasmin Bancoli spoke representing Senator Durbin and did a quality job in her role. Number 4, the 988 helpline is available. It has not been advertised or promoted very much, so we need to consider that in our highlighter as a regular basis. The 988 line is a call, text, or chat for suicide and crisis lifeline. I wish to thank Mission Church for the donation of toys and Christy Merrill for her tree lighting leadership, the Public Works staff who pitched in nicely. The event was always special, and the Santa's chair that's in the lobby downstairs. Take a good look at it. The chair was a work of skill and love for the outcome. Thank you, John Kunkel. Lisa for the idea. Public Works for making it look pretty and keeping it out of harm's way. For this outstanding chair for Santa. Appreciate it. I'm attending the IML, the Illinois Municipal League Executive Board meeting this weekend. I'm hopeful that more trustees will attend in the coming year to the annual conference. Trustee Herb and I, we're talking about that, and we hope to enlist more of the board to participate in the annual conference. Tomorrow I'm attending the annual DuPage Habitat Hard Hats and Hash Browns Builders Appreciation Breakfast event at the Danita House grounds. The result this year, there was 2 weeks of women build in our community. Their goal is 27. I think they're down to 23. They need more parking to offset that. But They've got about 11 more to go, and they're doing a great job. What an outstanding event in Hanover Park. It's an evolution of affordable housing, and we have taken this very affirmative initiative on, and continues to be an outstanding opportunity for those that have that first homeowner participation. The Trickster Cultural Center in Schaumburg is presenting Veterans Holiday Dinner on December 17th. So those veterans, I hope you take the opportunity to swing by, give them a call. They're looking for an RSVP or something like that. But the, let's see here. I, along with others, attended the National League of Cities. Herb Porter and Trustee Herb Porter and Yasmin Bencoli attended. I'm a regular member of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee with them. 10, I'd like to thank staff for their assistance supporting Veterans Day event in the Village Hall. Came off nicely. We had a nice turnout for that. 11, the principals' luncheon organized by police was an outstanding sharing with our schools and with our social worker. That was well attended. I hear from the principals, well, I see them, I'm in the schools, you know, so they really did appreciate it. It was nice feedback. And the commitment from our police department with our schools is outstanding. So thank you, Chief. Please hand that along. And our continuation of our higher vets recognition is pretty special, as we now have a level of 12% veterans employed. Senator Durbin even acknowledged the efforts of Hanover Park and 2 other communities, St. Charles, and I forget what the third one was, for our efforts to support veterans. I can recall getting out of the Navy back in '74, and it was kind of strange, because now you're free to find a job, and it's like, whoa, who's here to assist me? And we really didn't have the infrastructure to do that like we have today. With our community colleges. They didn't really start up until 1967. And so they didn't have the formation like they do today. So our efforts are outstanding. And I'm pleased to acknowledge the Boys and Girls Club coming to Hanover Park. They're organizing an oversight board where I will be a liaison. Bob Prigge will be our first board member. And they're kicking off in Laurel Hill and Ontarioville schools. And I know Trustee Porter is a regular at Laurel Hill, and I'm a regular at Ontarioville, and it's nice support for those students and the after-school efforts of the Boys and Girls Club. They're doing a great job. I'm glad, and I'm very pleased to see them come to Hanover Park. Our state rep, Fred Crespo, handed out turkeys at the POC, and I know Trustee Lisa will speak to that endeavor, so that's about all I'm going to say. And tomorrow I'll be working with the Roselle mayor on a videotape, a fireside chat in support of their petition for home rule status. Hanover Park has been blessed with home rule for many, many years. And coming to Hanover Park, and I've had this nice conversation with the ownership, thank you, I can't read my own writing. Sweet Razel Cafe has a 10-year lease at the old Tap House, and are hoping to open in March. And I've received outstanding feedback from individuals that have been to those restaurants. One's at Algonquin, one's in Aurora, one's in Skokie. But they have a wonderful reputation, and I'm always hungry for good food. I don't know about the rest. But anyway, with that, I will move to approve by omnibus vote items on the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second.
So the items on consent agenda are 8A1 through 8A13 and 8A15.
Thank you. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Prigge?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kunkel?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
By the way, I mentioned the award, and here they are, our EV awards. I just looked up and saw them sitting there, so to share with everybody. We are one of, 16 communities in the state? Nice to have that recognition. We're on the right pathway. Okay. You took the roll?
Yes.
8A14. Move to pass an ordinance amending the base salary plan of the Village of Hanover Park and direct staff to implement the plan effective January 1, 2024. Move. The motion?
Keep someone down here.
Oh, okay. Second?
Second.
And we have a second. Discussion?
So I want to make a motion to amend this ordinance before we move forward. Yeah, it is. My voice is very small. I move to amend the ordinance by adding to Appendix A of the ordinance, which is on page 2, under the Tech Prof Supervisory grade 810, following village planner to instead include economic development coordinator.
On the paper that we have received at the dais.
So if you look on page 2 of the motion, it didn't have that, and so that's what we want to add.
Great. Thank you, Barry, for providing.
What was the change?
Right here, we added this line.
So,
Oh, you added that.
yeah, so it was a position, this was a new position this year, and we used, it was left off, so it's just a clerical error.
Yes.
The motion needs a second.
We had a second.
No, you don't. The motion needs a second.
We have a motion.
I second.
Thank you.
Okay.
So now you have a motion and a second to amend the ordinance. That's what's going to give us.
Oh, I got you. Discussion on the amendment? Hearing none.
Sorry, just to clarify, so are you adding a new position in?
So it's a position, yes, so the one that was in the ordinance, attached to the ordinance in the packet, inadvertently left off the economic development coordinator position, which was a new position this last year. So when the chart was drafted, it was left off, so we're just making sure that it's the most current chart that's being approved this evening.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Call the roll.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kunkel?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
And Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Now vote on the main motion?
Great. Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kunkel?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
And Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, our new position gets paid. Okay, 8A 16, move to pass an ordinance adopting the Village of Hanover Park's current paid leave and benefits policy and opting out of the Illinois Paid Leave for All Workers Act 820 ILCS 192/1 ET sequence for all Village of Hanover Park employees.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have a presentation from
We
staff?
do. We do.
Okay.
Good evening, Village Board. I'm here tonight to go over staff's recommendation to adopt the village's paid leave.
Dave, can we have a mic? Put that on.
Can you speak closer to the mic?
Sorry, I didn't have it on. Apologies.
Thank you.
So I'm here tonight to give staff's recommendation on to adopt the village's paid leave and benefit policy, and then to opt out of the Illinois Paid Leave for All Workers Act. I'll be going over it, but HR Director Barry Kurtz is here as well, that he can bail me out if I need some help with a question or something, but we'll be able to go through it rather quickly here tonight. So just real quick, in brief, just going over the act. In brief, it begins January 1st, 2024. The act requires all employers to provide employees 1 hour of paid leave per 40 hours worked, and then allow them to carry over the 40 hours of paid leave annually. Generally speaking, it's 5 days if you're looking at an 8-hour day, obviously. This leave can be taken anytime by anyone for any reason, and with no restrictions on notice for giving that time off. So why are we making our recommendation? Well, the main reason is the act will negatively impact the village and place an undue operational and financial burden on the ability to provide uninterrupted services for our residents here. One of the first question to look at when we're looking at this is federal employees, schools, park districts were all excluded from this and don't have to comply with what's in the act. Why municipalities were, we don't know, but we do know that we, as our COGS and the Illinois Municipal League all attempted lobbying efforts up to this point, some of which you saw the letters that we had forwarded you for some backup documentation, and we're hoping that there would be some kind of change before the end of the year, and as of today, no action has been taken. The deadline is obviously January 1st, because that's when it takes effect, and that's dictating the timing of us here tonight with you. Hanover Park is not alone in this position. Here's a list. In yellow is all the communities who have opted out around us so far. This information is from our two COGS, Northwest Municipal Conference and the DuPage Mayor Managers Conference. The other ones that are all in here, all of them have recommendations to opt out and are pending. They're in the same situation as us, where we were hoping that there would be, the state would take some action on this, and it hasn't happened. So many of these are pending just like ours, waiting to the last minute to be able to move them forward. So what's missing from the act and is probably one of the main reasons why we are not recommending this, is that there's no safeguards against threat to public safety and governmental services in the way the act is written. The number one thing is that there's no regard for meeting minimum staffings to maintain safe operations that are meant to protect and serve our residents. As I said earlier, the leave can be taken at any time by anyone for no reason and no restrictions on notice. This applies to all employees, including our police officers, firefighters, public works officers. Currently we have best practices that allow our employees to utilize their time off while maintaining a safe balance for our community members, and that we can still provide our essential services. This act would hamper that. We have just severe concerns that if this were taken into effect, that there, during our critical emergency operations, such as water main breaks, snowstorms, flooding, and everything, being able to get employees into work to be able to solve these problems. At times we can have issues now with vacations, sick calls, and things like that. This would be a further problem with that. Additionally, it's also in conflict with certain current bargaining agreements, which are very specific on how each department can put in for and take off for leave. And that's to maintain that balance of safety and being able to serve our residents. Just some HR considerations here is our ability to properly staff, and that's the main thing. If they can take off, when an employee can take off leave whenever they want, at the last minute, don't have to give a reason, they're just allowed to be off, a municipality can't staff that way. It just isn't going to work and isn't going to be safe for our residents. We're going to definitely have a negative impact on our customer service and our day-to-day operations. On the lowest level would be customer service. Let's say in our water billing department, all of our water billing people decide that they're going to have the day off today, and the line is out the door, and it takes our residents an hour to just come in to pay their water bill. That's the lowest level. The highest level would be if we have many of our police officers, firefighters, public works people all take off at the same time and an incident happens, or just for day-to-day operations or keeping the public safe. Trying to get police officers in to staff that is going to be a very difficult situation. That would be like the highest level. We're going to have increased overtime. We already know now when people are calling sick, take vacations, we're at minimum staffing, that we're going to have increased overtime just based on that. With this, it's going to increase the probability for that to happen. It's going to hinder our managerial oversight. Currently now, we have set rules and things in place to be able to make sure that people come in, and it takes away that managerial oversight from our supervisors to monitor when people are off, taking off, and to do it in a way that's responsible to the village and our residents. Some other financial issues are the accrual of this personal time off is unfunded. It's going to be a future liability on the village as this accumulates, and it's allowed to accumulate. Obviously, every time an employee would leave, we would have to pay them out, obviously, for that. And every time that employee, such as let's say it was me, every time I get a raise, that bank of money gets a raise. It's a liability on the books for the village. And finally, just from a financial issue, as well as municipal employees already have healthy time off benefits, which we're going to get into in a minute, which you'll see. This is a comparison of our leave versus the leave that is proposed. I don't know if I need to read everything, but you can sort of see 10 days, 15 days, depending. It kind of depends on the year. That's 20 days off after 12 years. Sick days, 12 a year, that accrue and accumulate. 3 personal days off. 10 holidays that are paid. Bereavement days, 3 days. And then getting into all the agreements and our personnel manuals, we have rules in place and that are bargained as well, depending on the situation of how those employees can take that time off. That manages that balance, once again, that I can say that of serving our residents, keeping our community going and safe, and yet getting our employees the time off that they need. That concludes my remarks. If anyone has any questions.
Can you go back to that last thing I was?
This one here?
Yeah, reading through.
Yeah, sorry. In the detail part, you'll notice those are snippets. I can say, and I'll just talk because my background was police before this, was, the police memo that goes out with the guidelines for how time off is very specific. Some of it's managerial rights, some of it is bargained, but it's going to be based on many, many factors in order so we can have proper staffing, have minimum staffing there that's going to show up to help our residents. Chief Johnson sent over the memo to me today. It's like 3 pages long with what to look at, what to go over when the supervisors are approving their stuff each year for vacation requests. So we have the officers on the street to be able to respond, and we don't get short-staffed and something bad happens and somebody can get hurt.
So you're saying that there are only 10 holiday days, or they're only allowed to take 10 holiday days?
They get 10 holiday days paid.
So if there are more, they don't get it?
If there's more, they get 10. There's 10 determined holidays.
Okay. So my question was that the state act applies to full and part-time employees, but our particular ordinance is only for full-time employees. We don't have anything in place. I'm trying to read through this. We don't have anything in place for the part-time employees.
No, we do. They get the 10, where is it? The 10 paid holidays.
And bereavement.
And bereavement.
Oh, maybe not.
Okay.
Do they get bereavement?
No.
So they just get the holidays and the IL paid leave? Is that, what's that?
No, that's just the comparison, just so that's the act.
Oh, okay.
The act says they get 5
Oh,
days
okay.
no matter what.
So all they get, so that's, I think that's at the heart of this, is that full-time gets benefits that part-time isn't getting, right? That's what this shows?
Correct. So.
And part-time and seasonal. So part-time and seasonal, which the Illinois Act would cover, but our policy doesn't cover part-time or seasonal workers with any of these benefits that are listed there.
Well, I guess it means what you mean by doesn't cover. I mean, they get 10 holidays.
Yeah, they get the 10 holidays.
It's how you're parsing it out, I guess, is the answer to that.
But they don't get sick leave, they don't get personal leave, they don't get
Paid.
any of that.
I think one of the things that should be noted is that's 10 paid holidays, but our practices will allow a part-timer, so if they have a death in the family, they'll be able to take that time off, but it's not paid, prorated. So it's not that we don't have the flexibility to let them have the time off to go and take care of their personal business. It's just scheduled, and it's not a paid time off at the part-time seasonal level.
But whereas the state act would pay them for that.
For that, but the state act doesn't take into consideration the 10 paid holidays, so we actually have more paid days throughout the year for those part-time employees than the state act allows for.
Or required.
I think that what they were trying to accomplish, holidays notwithstanding, is giving those employees some type of opportunity in unforeseen circumstances. Holidays were closed down anyway, so I mean, if you take a holiday, the building is shut down, so everybody's out of work on the holiday. But if you have a personal emergency where a family member is hospitalized and you need to go and spend time with a member that has a medical emergency and you're a part-time worker, you can do that, but you have to do that at your own expense. You don't do that as a paid off day. And I think the state act was trying to mitigate that as a problem for part-time employees. I think that was one of the things that they were trying to accomplish. And I appreciate what you're saying, in terms of some of the other considerations for management and staffing. And I certainly can see where that would be a concern. But I do have a concern that the part-time workers don't have the part-time workers don't have access to vacation days, sick leave, or personal days. They do get holidays, and they do get, under the Illinois Paid Leave Act, they get 5 days, I guess, which is, I don't know what the circumstances are that you can access the Illinois paid leave, those 5 days. How is that?
That's
accessed?
So
the plow up.
that's what we're opting out.
That's what they're comparing.
Yeah, that's what they're opting out of.
Yeah.
Correct.
So-
But so conceivably, we could just say part-timers don't get holidays paid, that we're closed, you're not, we're not going to pay you, you need to be off, and we'll take 5 of those days and give it to you as vacation days to schedule accordingly to our policies. I mean, that's an alternative. We've structured it so that the employees have 10 days and they know when those holidays are, and they're prorated and they're like the others, and those have been built into our collective bargaining agreements. I would argue that, we have 5, they're getting paid for 10 days over the course of the year versus what the act provides for, which doesn't talk about holidays or anything. It just talks about the 5 days for the part-time. And the scheduling, as Dave walked through, is just why every other community on that list every other community has opted out. We haven't heard of one community that has done that because it just wasn't built into the legislation when it was drafted, and that's why Park District and school districts and the federal government and everybody else are opted out because of the scheduling concerns raised in being able to provide the services.
I have a question. So IML put out this Q&A, and I'm just curious as to why we're even discussing this, because it says, one of the questions is, can a municipality opt out of PLAWA using their home rule powers? And it says no, and you stated that we haven't heard anything yet, but that right now municipalities are not excluded from this legislation, right? So this says, may municipalities opt out of PLAWA using their home rule powers? No. Under the Act, the only circumstance in which a municipality may avoid it is if they have a local ordinance that provides paid sick or paid leave after the effective date, and if that ordinance provides benefits, rights, and remedies that are greater than or equal to than those provided under the Act. So why are we doing this if this is gonna?
Because we have benefits that exceed the 40 hours that the Act calls for.
It's for all, but it's looking at it for all of part-time and
We
full-time?
have 10 days, which is greater than the 5 days for part-timers. All the other employees get 10, 24, 25, 20, 35 days off, 30.
But it doesn't say that you can opt out. You're just avoiding PLAWA because our benefits are greater.
The Act has a section in it that doesn't really relate to home rule or not home rule. It just allows municipalities to opt out.
Okay. This also says that the Act doesn't prohibit an employer from adopting an evenly applied paid leave policy to allow it to address operational issues and meet safety objectives. Employers of unionized employees can also address this under collective bargaining. Have we tried looking at that?
Well, that's what we have now. We've put in place benefits for our different employee groups, and we've negotiated each, every time we go through the collective bargaining process, a discussion about pay and benefits. So we've negotiated those at those times. This is what's a result of those discussions with our employees during those that are covered by a collective bargaining agreement. Our recommendation is to continue with this, which is in place for our employees, as well as the guidelines for usage of that time for the benefit and the safety of the community.
So you think that this, because they're saying that if we don't have anything in place by 1/1/24, then the PLAWA is just going to cover everything. You think that just by having this in place then?
If you pass this ordinance, you've opted out of the Act and you've said this is what we're going to continue to provide to our employees, or any changes that come about. I mean, we could find.
Do we have to opt out of this though? That's what I'm saying. If it says, if you have a plan in place that's greater than this, then go with that, and we do.
But if you don't opt out, those employees are going to be able to take the time, the provisions of, I can take it whenever I want, I don't have to get permission, I don't have to go through all of the steps. Those are rights that the Act provides, that's the main.
But IML also says that it doesn't prohibit you from adopting an evenly applied paid leave policy.
This is an evenly applied paid leave policy.
But to address operational issues and meet safety objectives, which is what you're saying. And we can have an emergency and no one's here because everybody took time off. Why can't we have an ordinance that addresses that?
They're saying you can either opt out and have this and approve that, which is what we're doing this evening.
I don't think that that's what they're saying. I think that what they're saying is that if you have a policy currently in place that is equal to or greater than this Act, then the Act is therefore superseded by the policy that you have in place, and you don't have to opt out. The only reason that, and there, to Trustee Gutierrez's point, there is no provision, at least in my reading, where a municipality has the option to opt out. You either subject to this Act, or you have something that's equal to or greater than the Act, which then makes it moot because you've got something else that's in place. That was, my reading and my research on it as to, how it's applied.
That's what I got from it, that what we have is greater than PLAWA, so then that PLAWA becomes moot. We don't have to use it then, because we have something better in place.
Right.
I believe that you still need to go through this exercise of approving this ordinance.
I don't think we have the power to do that. I don't think that we as a municipality can preempt a state law that says that this is going to be in place on 1/1/24.
Yes, and Bernie's going to have to chime in here. Every community with their attorneys has advised, as well as IML and The COGS attorneys.
IML says you can't opt out.
IML says,
I'm not,
I'm reading it right now. No, under the act, the only circumstance that you can avoid it, and it doesn't say opt out, that you can avoid it, is if they have a local ordinance that provides like greater paid sick or paid leave after the effective date, if their local ordinance provides benefits, rights, and remedies that are greater than or equal to those provided in the act. But it doesn't say you can opt out. I don't think that we can legally do that. I'm concerned about that.
Can I interject? Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Trustee
go
Bancole
ahead.
would like to
Go ahead.
speak here.
Okay, thank you. Going back to one thing that was mentioned before, so this has been brought before the board because our benefits exceed what is provided in this act. But do we give benefits for those that have internships with the village and those that are seasonal employees? Because I think we already covered full-time and part-time.
There's no paid time off, no.
Okay, so thanks for clarifying. So then, what was stated before is incorrect. Our benefits don't supersede what's in the act because the act does provide benefits for those that are seasonal and also those that have internships. I don't know if there's like parameters for the internship, like if it has to be a certain length or things of that nature. So again, I would also maybe have to echo Trustee Gutierrez and also Trustee Porter that this is moot. We don't actually have the authority to do this, unless I'm understanding this correctly.
I'm very worried about that because that's what kept coming up as I read more about this was, and I'm reading right from IML, home rule municipalities currently have the authority to adopt paid leave ordinances that apply to all employers within their community and may continue to adopt alternative ordinances, right? However, employers will be required to comply with both local and state standards if those ordinances do not meet the minimum required benefits. We won't have to deal with that because we have this policy in place that it's greater benefits. And it says nothing in the act preempts a home rule municipality from adopting ordinances that provide broader or more expansive paid leave. But, and I know that there was a county one. Did we opt out of the county one? The Cook County one?
I'm not aware of a county one,
Yeah, there's a Cook County Paid Leave Act.
but
There's
I
a
don't
Cook
believe it's
County
been
one.
approved yet. Is that correct, Bernie? Didn't you tell me that you looked at it?
So I think that there was a county board meeting on November, I think it was 16th. And I looked at the county board agenda and everything. It's unclear to me whether they passed it or not. I'm really kind of unsure whether they did. It basically said that a committee of the county board had approved something concerning paid leave for the county, but it was unclear as to whether or not the county board itself did. So I'm not positive one way or the other, but it's one thing that I'm looking into still to see whether or not there is such an ordinance by the county and whether or not the village does have to do or should do or should consider doing anything.
While you added, Bernie, could you please also shed light on the issue that we're discussing right now?
Sure. So I think that when the people from the municipal league, and that's what we're talking about here, looked at this, they looked at it from a lot of different angles. One angle was home rule. One angle was the provision itself in the Act, which is paragraph P. And I think that it was thought by many people that if you're going to pass an ordinance, you should probably include whatever you can include to basically make it as good as you can. And so I think regardless of whether the municipal league believes or other people believe that home rule wouldn't be a power that municipalities could use to circumvent this statute, that you ought to include that anyway in the ordinances that you're providing. And so that is what's kind of in here also. As far as section P, and I'm just gonna read it to you as opposed to what the municipal league says it does or does not do. But it says, this is P, the provision of this act shall not apply to any employer that is covered by a municipal ordinance that is in effect on the effective date of this act that requires employers to give any form of paid leave to their employees, including paid sick leave or paid leave. That's the first part of it. The next one is, notwithstanding the provision of this subsection, any employer that is not required to provide paid leave to its employees, including paid sick leave or paid leave under a municipal or county ordinance that is in effect on the effective date of this ordinance, shall be subject to provisions of this act if the employer would be required to provide paid leave under the act to its employees. And then it goes on, P, to say, any local ordinance that provides paid leave, including paid sick leave or paid leave, enacted or amended after the effective date of this act, must comply with the requirements of the act or provide benefits, rights, and remedies that are greater than or equal to the benefits and remedies afforded under this act. That paragraph clearly applies to any municipality that did not, prior to January 1 of 2024, pass something. The last one says, an employer in a municipality or county that enacts or amends a local ordinance, including paid leave or paid sick leave after the effective date of this act, shall only comply with local ordinance or ordinances so long as the benefits, rights, and remedies are greater than or equal to what's afforded under the act. Also addressing people who pass things after January 1 of 2024. So the only possible two paragraphs, I believe there are two, maybe, yes, one paragraph. So there's 3 paragraphs in P. It appears the last 2 paragraphs of P apply only to people that are passing things after January 1. The first paragraph applies to people who are passing everything before January 1. So I think what is trying to be accomplished here is an affirmation that the Village of Hanover Park truly has these benefits, because that's actually the title of this, affirmation of this ordinance. It says the affirmation. An adoption of paid leave policy. So to leave no doubt that the village has adopted this by ordinance, and because there may be other benefits that the village has provided over time, the question is, go find what you passed to demonstrate that you did that. Like you're saying, you know, if you did it, you're covered.
Right.
Well, this is basically saying, we're gonna say today that for sure we are covered, so that no one has to go back and try and figure out what was passed when and when it occurred, and there might be even some difficulty doing that. There might be. I know we have an employee handbook. It's been adopted or passed somewhere along the line by a resolution. So this is really an ordinance. One thing that you might want to think about too is in the act itself, it says, and this is in section 5, findings. It says the General Assembly finds that it is in the public policy interest of the state for all workers in Illinois to have some paid leave from work to maintain their health and well-being, care for their families, and use for any other reason of their choosing. So the legislature wants people to have some paid leave.
Right.
Okay, well, you provide more than some
No, we
paid?
don't.
You
We don't
don't?
provide any paid leave.
We don't?
We
Not
provide,
for all workers. We provide holiday days off, but we don't provide paid leave. And there's a distinction.
You may be correct about that. I'm not saying you're not. But I'm just saying that it says some paid leave for the workers in Illinois. You know, you could deal with the issue that you're talking about.
Consider leave. I mean, you've got sick, you've got, it says leave type. And the leave type is vacation leave, is sick leave, is personal leave, holiday leave, bereavement leave.
Can you speak closer to the microphone? Sorry.
That's a gentleman in the audience, but those leaves, so you know, that is for full-time, not for part-time.
And the intent of the act was to provide benefits for all workers, not limited to full-time employees. And I think that was the original intent of the act.
Jade?
Now, I'm not saying that the act isn't without.
Well, let me ask you this question. Do you think
Can you
some
keep that
paid leave
up on the screen?
from work for employees
I
excludes
don't have-
holiday
I'm sorry.
pay?
So that-
Do you believe that some paid leave
Thank you.
from work for employees, part-time employees, excludes holiday pay?
it's in our definition as paid leave. I mean, there's lots of different paid leave. Paid holidays is part of the paid leave definition.
But, yeah, I think we're asking a question that, without a distinction, because I think that, yes, technically, that would apply as paid leave. But as I read the intent and the spirit of the act, I think what it was trying to do was allow for a part-time employee, because unless your family member gets sick on Thanksgiving, or they get sick on Christmas or New Year's Eve, and if you need to attend to them, you don't have an opportunity, or you don't have any type of paid leave to go and tend to that family member. So unless you're just fortunate enough that all your people get sick on holidays, you're kind of, you know, in between a rock and a hard place.
Yes. I mean,
And I think it was meant to address that for the part-time employees
So,
specifically.
so.
And maybe there's some communities that aren't as generous as we are, and I think it was meant to do that as well.
Right, but right now we're dealing with the Village of Hanover Park.
Right.
I think that if the board is concerned about part-timers in the village, you know, before January 1, if you want to do something concerning them, then if a majority of the board wanted to do that, then they could do that.
But we already got an act, why would we do something when the act is already there to do
Because there's other
it?
provisions of the act that the staff is telling you is of some concern to them on the operations of the village.
But doesn't it give provisions within the act that says that you can put in policies that help with the whole operational issue? In fact, I was reading an article in the Daily Herald that says that, just a second, that says that Illinois, this was from March of 2023 in the Daily Herald. It was Frank Manzo, who is the MPP, the executive director of the nonpartisan Illinois Economic Policy Institute. And it says, Illinois already has a good idea of what to expect. In 2017, both Cook County and the city of Chicago enacted local sick leave ordinances. The Chicago ordinance extended access to more than 385,000 workers, and importantly, failed to produce the negative business impact that opponents of such benefits claim. So, you know, that's just another, you know, piece of reporting on that. But it says in 2017, Chicago and Cook County enacted a local sick leave ordinances that are doing what this Illinois Act, I think, probably was the genesis of what grew into the act that the Illinois Paid Workers Leave.
So the Cook County Sick Leave Act that you're referring to, I think was passed like in 2019, or thereabouts, maybe 2018.
Okay.
And the village opted out of that. The village opted out of that.
For that one, municipalities could, though, right? It was,
It's a whole different issue. So in that situation, you have a county ordinance. And then the issue is, does that county ordinance conflict with a home rule county ordinance? Cook County is the only home rule county in the state of Illinois. So the question then becomes, are there any municipal home rule ordinances that conflict with the county's home rule municipal ordinance? And the law is that if there is a municipal home rule municipal ordinance that conflicts, truly conflicts with a county home rule municipal ordinance, you follow the municipality's home rule ordinance and not the county within the home rules municipality's jurisdiction. So that's a whole different issue. This issue has to do more with this paragraph P of the state law, where the legislature itself provided this language for local governments to have in place prior to January 1 of 2024 sick leave policies, policies that require the employer to provide sick leave. And if you do, then you need not follow this statute.
So let me ask this question. Is it possible then that we could amend our ordinance so that the same formula for accrual of paid leave time applies to part-time employees? Yeah. And have that moving forward, because that's my concern. We have rules and policies that govern the requesting of the time off for managerial control. I don't think that the argument that the police and fire department would use this because that's called, I remember that's called the blue flu, when all the police guys call in and take the same day off. I don't think we would have that type of work action. But notwithstanding that, but couldn't we do something where we could amend our policy to cover the part-time employees and at least get that done? And then, then I would be okay with opting out of what the state act is if we could amend it to do that, if opting out is an option.
That's what I'm saying. I don't
which
think,
is back to the central point.
I don't think we can opt out of this, but what we
The
can
state
do.
doesn't use language called opt-out.
Right, I don't like that
They
word.
don't use that.
Well, why then are we?
I don't know why we're
This
using
ordinance
it.
does not use opt-out.
Okay, so let's not use that
This
word.
ordinance is basically saying that you have your own policy.
That is greater than what the state has.
Right.
And I get that, but we also have to balance that with the safety and that concern that all of our officers are gonna take off on the same day.
I have a couple of questions.
So can we, I'm sorry, so what I was getting to was, why can't we then amend this so that we can have, if you have 41 days off for full-time and only 10 for part-timers, why can't we amend it so our part-timers have more time off?
Right.
And then we will really be exceeding what PLAWA is asking for. And it will be the spirit of what was written behind it.
And Attorney Paul, it does say opt out in the amendment in 816. It says, and opting out of the opting out of the Illinois Paid Leave Act. So
In 816.
816A, yeah, it specifically says that we're opting out.
816A, oh.
In the title.
Yeah, right.
I have a couple of
Syed,
questions.
do you have a
The statute
comment?
doesn't use that language. The statute doesn't.
Syed, did you have a comment?
Yes. First of all, the holidays are not flexible. They're kind of stick to what the holiday is, and then also have restriction of being scheduled before and after that holiday. That's when they get paid, right? You're giving me.
What do you mean restrictions on getting paid?
It says, details of that holiday is part-time off, must have scheduled day before and scheduled day after. So there
Right,
is a
so
restriction
that's
as
to, you know, control the
That's right.
abuse.
I
like-
agree. I've been there, done that on, you know, not all full-timers get, part-timers get that holiday. And also they get what scheduled time is. If they are scheduled only for 4 hours for that day usually,
Right, it's
that's what they
prorated,
get. They're
correct.
not getting
Correct.
paid that, 8 hours that all the full-time employees enjoy. One more thing, the full-timers have 10 days or 15 days, depending on how long they've been here, surplus that 5, if we don't do that right now, or we are changing or adding these 5 days to their existing.
No. We're not adding time to anybody's. Those are the schedules that we have in place for our employees
So
currently.
in addition to that is 5 days?
No, we are not, and I think it's confusing to have that last line on
Yeah.
there. It was put on there for comparative purposes. That would not be that is not part of our recommendation.
Okay, that's not part of the recommendation. If we have to in future, we're gonna adjust something. A sick day maybe 7 and then 5 of these, that's how we're gonna adjust it? How about the?
Yeah, from time to time, there have been modifications
Yeah,
to what,
okay.
like, I think at one point we added
I-
spring holiday, to it, where we added another holiday
Yeah.
for employees. And so, I mean, I go back to, if you look at the whole year for someone who's a part-time employee, they will get, as part of their overall compensation for the entire year, 10 days of paid. It comes in their paycheck at the time of when the holiday occurs, so they get paid and they don't need to be here, we're closed anyways.
Okay.
And we've been very flexible as an organization to work with employees if they need time off for an emergency, or even if it's time off for a social good, a vacation, et cetera. And the supervisors are really good about working with their employees. They just don't get that day covered in their paycheck. But in the totality of the year, I actually think that what we provide is better than what this act provides. They're getting 10 days of paid leave over the course of the year. They get paid for that day that we're closed and they're forced to be off, and the employees get the flexibility from their supervisors to be off. So I guess it's semantics, I think,
Yeah,
in terms of
but-
the language and the definition. I understand what the act was trying to do.
Yeah.
I think there are businesses out there that don't provide any type of leave for a part-timer, and I think we all remember the day when you knew you were part-time, you didn't get any benefits, time off, anything. And so I think we're evolving, but I think the organization has evolved to add and allow for some pay, of that to be paid.
So it's not like we have benefits for the part-timers here except the holiday, right? Is there any other benefits?
There are no other
Yeah,
paid
so
days off.
We're in the same situation here as well. It's not like part-timers get benefit, which is, I can't consciously sit here and say we have a better plan than what they're asking us to do. Because what they are asking us to do is provide that time off when they need it, instead of having it hover around the holidays and you get that holiday paid off. So I cannot consciously make that decision saying, even though I'm completely against this act, completely personally speaking about it, because I have 300 employees. And out of that, 60% of my employees are part-timers, which don't get benefits like here. And now I have to pay that, randomly, roughly we put the figure today, and it's costing me about $200,000 to add this. And forget about everything else that's gonna impact that. They could call anytime, and all of them call at the same time, and then I have to run the business. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. I don't know, is it well-thought processed act? And I'm really getting hit by that starting January 1st. And I don't have an option opt-out as a small business. You are just forced into this and you have to kind of follow through. And hopefully the amendment has something in it for the small businesses that are facing these challenges right now. This is my 4th year in business, and think, if I lose $200,000 next year, how are we gonna run the business? It is what it is. So I have all of that thought process in together. I'm completely not for it. But I cannot consciously sit here and say, Village have a better plan. I can't do that. So that's something I want.
The flexibility is not
Yeah,
there.
not
Yeah,
there.
okay.
So may I try to?
Can we consider
Can-
maybe some flexibility for part-timers?
Well, so there's 5 employees this covers in our organization.
6.
Six employees that are covered, that are non-union in our organization, that are part-time, they get the 10 holidays. It is critical that the board approve this ordinance and not have the provisions of the act apply.
But seasonal as well, don't we
Well,
have seasonal? It doesn't
Wait,
plow
wait,
cover
wait,
seasonal?
but let me talk to you.
And internship. What about seasonal and internship?
Okay, let me
That's
speak
also in
to
the
the
act.
5 or the 6 not part-time, the part-timers. So we have 6 employees who are covered by this act right now. It's critical that we opt out of this, or whatever language we want to use. If we want to discuss taking 5 of those holidays and moving them to more flexible days off that they can schedule with their supervisor and can be at a different time of the year, we can have that discussion offline as we work on, on benefits for the coming year. And then we'll have to address the part-time firefighters when we have a new contract with them. And that, I mean.
What about seasonal and internship?
We have, our seasonal, we never get for the whole entire summer. We're lucky to get a seasonal employee to fill the spots we have. We never fill all of them, and we get them for maybe 3 months. And so to then have those individuals be able to take days off, I mean,
Well,
TJ's not good,
yeah, but they wouldn't be
TJ's
able
not.
to take days off,
But-
Juliana, because it's accrued. It's accrued based on the number of hours that they work. So if they're working a minimal amount of hours, it's not like they're gonna get a day just because they're on the payroll. It's an
Right.
accrual based on a 40-hour work week and how many hours
Right.
they work within that time period. That's how it's applied. It doesn't just automatically give them 5 days of paid leave.
I
It's a
understand.
maximum. They can earn up to a maximum of 5 days, but it doesn't mean that every part-time employee is going to get 5 days. It's accrued based on the number of hours that they work.
But the
And
thing is that whether
just
it's,
to build on what Trustee Porter said, so you said that we have seasonals that work for 3 months. If
correct.
they're working for 3 months, that means that under this act, they would get a day and a half off, 1.5 day off. So you're saying that someone that works for our village for 3 months, who's putting in effort, who's making our village run, you're not going to give them a day and a half off?
I'm going to
Is that what we're saying?
The current way, what we currently do is we accommodate them if they need a day off, and TJ can probably speak to this. I mean, but they wouldn't get paid for that day. That's the only thing we're discussing. They wouldn't get paid for the one day that they were here working a summer job and they decided to take a day off. They would not get paid for that day. And
I think that's
this,
what
Okay,
the
but
act is
it
trying to
just
remedy.
sounded like if you were working 3 months, like just the tone of it almost sounded like, you don't deserve to have that time off. And it's like, if I work somewhere 3 months and I need a day off, that's normal, right? We're all human.
No,
So
and I guess I
just-
tried to speak to that at the beginning. Again, we provide the flexibility through the supervisors to allow somebody to have a day off if they need a day off or they have an emergency and they need to go take it. It's just whether that time is paid or not.
Trustee Bencoli, to your point, part-timers, on the first place, that's a benefit and a flexibility for them to start as a part-timer because we take the days that they are available, like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We're working around their schedule to work. And then on top of that, if they can't make it one day, the part-timers never had that benefit. And usually when part-timers means they have a full-time job somewhere else, or they have a school, or they have some provision that they really want to stick to the part-time. And that's the choice that they pick, and that's the choice that employer has. So there's always two-way street of benefits. I think still it's a benefit to be a part-timer, it's a benefit to have a part-timer. On top of that, to pay a part-timer out of the blue, this is something that's very surprising for me. But it is what it is, the law.
So
Trustee Hussein,
I'm trying to
thanks
figure
so
out
much
what we're at.
for stepping up. Hello?
This whole,
Can you hear me?
yes, are
Yeah,
you
so
speaking?
Trustee Hussein, thanks so much for giving us your perspective. I think you hold a really unique perspective being a business owner. And I really appreciate you talking about that two-way street. But I also want to echo another thing that Trustee Husseini said, which is, you know, he said he couldn't consciously say that what we offer is better than the act, and I have to agree with him. It's not really, because there's two whole categories that are covered in the act that we don't cover, right? Seasonal and internship. And at the start of this, we were told that we had the authority to opt out of this because we exceeded the benefits. But if there's two whole categories that we don't provide benefits for, then we don't have the authority. We don't exceed, right? And so I just wanted to, you know, I've been listening to all the information that's been provided, and it's been really helpful. Thank you. I think it was Dave that I heard give the presentation. And thank you, Juliana, for answering some questions, and thank you, Attorney Paul, for also clarifying, you know, being able to clarify some things. But I think there's also there's a couple of things. We talked about the nitty-gritty of the act, but there's a couple of things that we also haven't touched on, which is why this act passed, right? So this act passed because life happens. And I mean, if you need time off, childcare, mental health reasons, medical appointments, vacation, I mean, those are all things that we need as human beings. And so this act is a good thing. And I really do, I have the confidence in our staff and our senior staff that they will be able to enact the changes that are found in this act. I also want to say that I'm a little bit disappointed in some of the things that have been said. I think I heard the term abuse, and as far as you know, how some of these benefits would be used. You know, what does that say to our staff, to our fire department, to our police department? Are we essentially saying that we don't trust them to use their time off? Are we saying that we don't trust them to check in with their supervisors? Has there been some sort of history in which you know, that's been a department-wide issue? I mean, that's not something I've heard of, and I just think that it's really important how we talk about this issue, because people leave jobs when they don't feel valued. And how you're paid and what your benefits are is also is tied into that value. So I really just want to make sure we're kind of careful about how we're discussing this. Another point that nobody has touched on tonight, although this has been a very robust and informative discussion, nobody's touched on the fact that most of our state legislators that represent Hanover Park voted in the affirmative for this legislation. I mean, Representative Fred Crespo is carrying the amendment. Christina Castro was one of the chief sponsors. Maura voted for it. I mean, all these people voted for it. They all represent Hanover Park. And I just think that the relationships that we have with our legislators is so important. It's crucial. I mean, the relationships that we've had with our legislators have allowed us to, you know, fix our roads, millions of dollars of investment into infrastructure. It's allowed us to really, you know, improve Hanover Park for our residents. So, you know, are we saying that every time we don't like a piece of legislation, we're just going to try to opt out of it? I mean, what is that? What message are we sending to our legislators? That we as a village, we supersede them? Come on, like we have to be, we don't have to agree, but I mean, let's be respectful. So I, like many others, I just don't think we have the authority to do this. I think it's moot, and I'll stop there.
Thank you. Our legislators, I've talked to them all, they say it's a mess. You see all these municipalities opting out. I see Hanover Park could possibly, if the board agrees, add some sick time to the part-timers. We don't have it. It used to be there, it's gone, it's evolved in and out for whatever reason. The component of this thing, no notice, no reason, no approval needed, does not work in this environment. Our quality of life would be shot. And I'm not demeaning our police department, our fire department, or our public works. They're very good about coming to work. My whole life has been about coming to work and being accountable and being the courtesy to my organization. I've got all those years with the FAA. You didn't think I couldn't come to work one day? The whole airways would be in stress with the type of work that we do. We have an operation here that's very important to the people of Hanover Park. I can't have a snow day and all of a sudden they don't want to come to work. Our roads wouldn't get plowed. We have a lot of pride in how we plow our roads. I see it, and I respect that. The pride in our police department. When I came on this board, we were down around 46, 47 officers. We weren't getting the job done. We didn't have the staff. I don't want to go back to that. I expect the courtesy leadership from our staff and from employees to come to work and expect. Our residents expect to see the plows run. They expect the fire department to show up on time. We have time limits when fire shows, and they're very proud of that, and they demonstrate that. To put this kind of thing in effect, we need to opt out, whether you like that terminology or not. And if we need to add some time on sick leave for part-timers, I don't have a problem with that. We got to figure that out. But I can't live with this no notice, no reason, or no approval needed. I just can't live with that. And I'm asking the board's support. Well, maybe I should just ask the board, where are you at? Are you okay if we add some time, sick time to the part-timers, and then everything else is, outstanding as far as we go?
So for me, if we can add some flexible days, it doesn't have to be sick days or whatever, to the part-timers, but this whole opt-out thing, I don't like the way we're using that word, and yeah, I don't think we have the jurisdiction to opt out of anything that the state decides. I think that we can just show them that we are exceeding with our paid leave. And then we can have something in the books. We're cementing it in the books with this, but it should have something more than just 10 days for holidays.
So if you get some time for part-timers, then we're exceeding it on all fronts.
Right, but we shouldn't be saying that we're opting out of a state
Well, I
law.
don't necessarily like that word either.
Well,
Right,
so
we gotta
Bernie,
find something else.
what would the ordinance have to be amended to be able to approve it tonight to address Trustee Gutierrez's concern about the word opt-out in that one section of the ordinance?
We just have that in the title. It's not in.
Well, so can we amend the title of the ordinance so that we can get through this?
The ordinance doesn't address internships and seasonal. That's not the only issue.
Well, the ordinance doesn't outline the amount of time off that we give each employee group. It would then have to be upon us to go back and look at the part-timers and what we provide for them and adjust that time to address what you all are saying is your understanding of the spirit of the ordinance, or the act, which is to give some flexible time. I wouldn't define it as sick time, but some flexible time to those other employee groups. And I understand that you have an interest in doing it for seasonal and internships as well.
Do we need to solve it tonight, or can we?
We need to solve this tonight.
Okay.
I have some issues with some of the wording in the ordinance. It's not just as simple as changing the title of it. there are a few things that it states, whereas, and I'm trying to, I guess I should count down to the whereases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think in the 5th whereas, the Village of Hannibal Park recognizes the importance of paid leave and provides all municipal employees of the village with benefits, including paid leave that are more generous than those required under the Act. That is not a true statement when it's compared to the Act.
So 10 hours of paid leave is not more generous than the maximum possible of 5 hours of paid?
Yeah, because I think that it's semantics, again.
Flexibility.
It was mentioned earlier, paid leave versus holiday leave. I think that's a distinct difference in time off. Holiday leave, holiday leave.
Don't you think that paid leave includes holiday, personal, vacation? Doesn't it include all those things?
Yeah, but it says all employees, and that doesn't apply to all employees. That only applies to a certain section.
The only word that applies to all employees is paid leave.
So the only groups that would not have paid leave would be the interns, if we have them. Some years we have them, some years we don't, as well as the 3 seasonals, for example, that we had last summer. So I'm saying that we will go back and we will look at those 2 employee groups, plus look at the part-time employee group where they have 10 paid leave days. They are defined as holidays, and make an adjustment for flexibility as part of that. But the benefits and the leave and the days and all of that is not in this, specified in this ordinance.
Well, yeah, my point still stands that I think that once we do this, then we've codified this into law. If we sign this without making those changes and amendments, then once it's codified into law, into code, now what do we do when we want to go back in and make the changes?
That's a different, that's a.
We don't, but benefits aren't approved by ordinance by the village board. They're done administratively.
We would direct the manager to make that modification.
I would like to see the modification. Oh, sorry. Are you still talking?
Well, I'm going to go on to another whereas, but if you have a comment on that, then go right ahead.
Okay, so then I would like to see these modifications. We've made a lot of changes off the cuff tonight, so I'd like to see these modifications before we move forward with whether or not we would actually vote on this ordinance. This is too important. It's a state law that our legislators worked on for years. This is too important to just be, making these changes at 8:40 p.m. off the cuff.
The next
Can we
item.
push this? Can we push this to the next meeting? Our December 21st meeting?
Yeah, this is like deja vu, because I remember once before we came to December and we had to make a rush decision on something before the end of the year because we were coming up against the end of the year. I mean, this is, I'm having deja vu here because we've been here and we've done this before, and I don't know how we keep ending up in this position where we're at 0 hour, at the 12th hour, having to make decisions without any time for deliberation, for changes, for amendments, and I'm very uncomfortable with being forced to vote on something one way or the other. I'm not certain which way I would vote on this at this time. I'm just uncomfortable with being pushed at the 0 hour to make that decision. That's my own personal opinion on that. That we find ourselves in this position.
I just want to, and I think Dave made the point in the presentation, is that the legislature was discussing and debating as to whether they were going to make the change to exempt municipalities similar to all of the other employee groups. So the municipalities didn't bring this act to their boards until now. We only had one meeting in November. If we had had 2 meetings, it would have been on your last agenda, but it was due to the timing of the legislature and their debating as to whether they were going to amend the legislation, which we were waiting on. We didn't want to bring to you and ask you to pass something that was still being debated at that level. So they've made their decision that they're going to push it to the spring session. They're not changing one of the amendments requested was to change the effective date to spring. And the legislature chose not to do that. So that's why we're in this position of having this discussion this evening.
But do you think
there is House Bill that's being sponsored by Representative Crespo, House Bill 4190, which is currently in the General Assembly, which will move the effective date until June of 2024, and that bill is still under consideration.
But it won't be acted on before January 1st, when this act takes place.
Well, that's the intention, that it would be. That House Bill 4190 would move the effective date from January 1st until June of 2024.
But they're not in session.
They're not.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from Trustee Prigge and Trustee
Sorry?
I'd like to hear from all the trustees.
I think we should opt out of it. That's my opinion on it. I mean, what we have, I think, is a generous paid leave. Part-times, the seasonal, I don't know any company, even a private company that pays sick leave or time off at their whim to just do what they want. So that's why I feel we should opt out of the state thing that says that we should pay for 5. It's going to hurt us as far as a municipality. It's going to hurt us a little bit. It may, most of the part-timers, they work their schedule around what they can. In other words, they work, 2-3 days a week? So if they can work a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but say they need a Tuesday and Wednesday off, they may come in and do Thursday, Friday to make up that time.
Correct.
Anybody that has any part-time employees usually does this without having to pay them a little bit of time off.
Trustee Prigge.
I agree with that.
And a few words. Well, my thoughts are, it's important, I think, to pass this. I also think we can come back, Herb, as you stated, to amend our part-time time off. I think we can do that. This board can direct that and we'll get it done. But I think it's important. I really can't live with that one component that I already spoke to. And it's important. I see it as quality of life thing. If you've got a responsibility as a municipality to support police and fire responds within minutes, police is who are in the town. When I first came on this board, we didn't have the right numbers. And that was painful. And so, would this board be in a position to direct and come back to the next meeting with a change on the part-time? And what are your thoughts on that?
Would that give you enough time before January 1st?
Well, so there's a lot of logistics in changing benefits for employees. So we have certain employee groups that are non-union, that are not covered by a collective bargaining agreement, that I have a little bit more flexibility and quickness to do.
Not for that. I think that has to happen, and I strongly believe this board will hold staff accountable for that. But to make the changes to come back at the next meeting, so that the whereases that need to be changed and that opt-out is eliminated.
I guess I'm unclear as to the changes that the board would be looking at from between now and the next meeting in light that this is, just in light that this is the ordinance that all the other attorneys and everybody has put forward, and that the village attorney has said is the appropriate one. So I need to understand from you together here this evening what those changes you're looking for would be.
Well, one of the things that I would like, and I know we've debated this, for quite a while, but I think it's very important. As of January 1st, we're not front-loading these days off. So it doesn't mean that automatically, as of January 1st, all these employees will get the full benefit of the Illinois Paid Leave Act. They would, again, as I mentioned, based on their hours worked, accrue those benefits. So I don't think that there's a danger that as of January 1st, we're going to have a line of people standing in front of their supervisors requesting these days off. And if they were, to Trustee Bancoli's point, a person that during a normal work week has worked 40 hours, they would get, one day off for that 40 hours that's worked. So
1 hour for 40 hours.
Yeah, 1 hour per 40 hours. So that's point number one. And for any employees, usually there's, when we put something in place and because it's accrued, any new employees, there's that 90-day period before they would receive any benefits for anyone that's hired from that. They don't get those benefits from day one.
Yes, they get the benefits from day one. Our employees get.
The benefits start to accrue from day one. They don't get the benefits. It starts to accrue. Every 2 months that you work, you get a day.
Right.
So it doesn't happen on your first day of work. It accrues.
For flower.
I'm not clear as to which leave you're referring to.
Can we make a recommendation on the part-time?
And finally, my last point, and then I'm done because I'll whatever the will of the board is. On item number D, just before section 3, it says no obligations with regard to mandatory paid leave, including without limitation any obligation adopted under the act by the state of Illinois will apply to the village in its capacity as an employer, except those required by federal or state laws and regulations preempting the village's home rule authority. That is, without saying it, that's the opt-out clause.
Correct.
Right there. That's where we're opting
Correct.
out with that statement.
That's correct. Yes.
To do that. And I'm wondering, is that statement necessary? Does that void the whole rest of the ordinance? If that's excluded, if we exclude that statement that says that, the village, none of these will apply to the village, none of these regulations will apply to the village?
Yes, that's the whole point. That's the crux of this ordinance, where it then all of those items that Dave presented, where the ability to just not have to call in, just to take the day off, not that whole accountability, working and having enough coverage. That's where all of that falls, and that's our issue with this ordinance. With this act. This act does not provide the administration of an organization with the types of services that we provide to make sure that we can ensure that all of them are provided for. If we were just talking about in the budget process, giving time off to part-timers, that would be completely different. That would have just been a discussion about part-time and benefits and all of that. The reason we're here this evening is how that all gets administered over the course of the year.
So,
Juliana, if anybody on this board, I want to oppose this, period. But just given the holidays that you're talking about, if that's what's in front of me, I cannot. If you ask me what changes you can make, I would say if you make it floating holiday, and have them take a month before, can they do that? And there is a flexibility there. They have an emergency, they want to use it, can I use the holiday that I have? Instead of using that day, I'll use it before. You don't have to go a December holiday in January. Maybe you will restrict by 60 days or something like that. You know, you could use that holiday before 60 days, whatever you want to do. But just, if you have that 10 days, but have that flexibility it's talking about, I'm okay with that.
And that's why I said I would go back and work with staff
Yeah.
and the HR department to adjust based on what you've said here, the time off and the benefit, that leave
Okay.
benefit, but that's outside of the process of this ordinance. Do you know?
I kind of
because-
like that. I kind of like that suggestion where the 10 days could be, they could opt out of accepting the holiday if they need it for something else. Would that be acceptable to the board?
I would prefer if I could go back and talk to the staff about what would work best regarding time off. But I've heard what the board said. I've heard your desire to give part-timers flexibility, seasonal and interns as well, on a prorated basis, to some flexible time that is at their discretion versus, that's paid versus what they have right now, which is the 10 days that's a holiday based. But
Okay,
I
so-
go back to, I would really request that the board pass this, this ordinance so that we can continue smooth operations of the organization, that this act takes away that ability to do.
So if we pass this, you're going to come back with a recommendation on the part-timers. And I think we've discussed numerous opportunities. Is that acceptable to this board?
So question, we're passing this even though we know that municipalities aren't excluded from this legislation, from PLAWA.
I think Bernie can maybe walk through, that's the legal side that he tried to walk through.
So what happens if, because the Department of Labor said that they will come back with more information in the future, which is how they do things, right? It's like, here's a crazy law, good luck, and we'll give you more details later. What happens if they come back and say, no, you can't?
Then we modify our ordinance at that time. I mean, just like you modify from time to time, I mean, I guess Bernie, you would have, that's a legal question that Trustee Gutierrez is asking.
I think staff has heard from us. We want some amendment on the part-timers. And come back to us in 2 weeks. And, but I want to get this passed. I want to put this behind us. There's components of it I just can't live with. And we'll take care of our part-timers. And I think this board has articulated some examples. And I trust staff to come back and provide us that. And so I'm asking the board to, let's give the staff the opportunity by the next meeting to get together and present us a similar kind of thing for our part-timers. I'm not opposed to that. But I am opposed to this ordinance, this change in the law. So respectfully, I'm asking the board to approve this with the understanding that the next week we're going to come back with an amendment to take care of the part-time component.
Well,
Maybe a couple options on that. Juliana.
and again, just for clarification, it's not, employee benefits are not by ordinance or resolution or vote by the village board. So I will have a discussion or talk with you about what our recommendation is, not in the context of an ordinance or a motion.
Okay. And Herb, can you
So
share
just to
some-
clarify, so in 2 weeks, we're reviewing everything, the changes in the ordinance, the new benefits, and then we're voting on it
That is not
on December 21st?
Well, I guess the board needs to let me know that my recommendation is that you approve the ordinance that's before you this evening, and that we will have a discussion before the end of the year regarding how effective January 1 or immediately, if we can, depending on the employee group, what their adjusted benefits will be.
But why would we vote on this ordinance if we've already talked about all the things that need to be changed in it? Why wouldn't we do that when you talk to the staff, tell us the things you want to change, you've reviewed it, it's not rushed. One trustee Porter's already said he's uncomfortable voting on this. I'm also feeling like you guys are forcing us to vote on this. I'm also uncomfortable. Why wouldn't we do this in 2 weeks when we're going to get the whole review?
I have trust in the staff that they will come back to us.
But it just needs to be in place by our new policy just needs to be enforced by January 1st, 2024. It doesn't say that we need to do it tonight. We could just as easily vote with all of the changes, with all of the recommendations, and come back with a completed package and then vote on that at the next board meeting.
Yes.
We would still meet the deadline of being enforced by the 1st of January, and we could just do that, because if there's a level of uncomfortableness
No,
in
I
doing
understand.
it now.
I understand. Yes, we can do it on the 21st. What I was saying was I don't have an understanding, and when we all leave the room, we won't be able to have this conversation. I don't know what the changes are that you're requesting in this ordinance. So I can bring it back modified for the next meeting and rewritten and not have you make amendments on the floor and approve it. I don't know what you're asking me to change in this ordinance.
I don't know if it's in the ordinance. I think it's our approval of a part-time component of time off. I think we pass this ordinance and then we come back and we adapt whatever the part-time component is. Are you okay with that, Herb?
And changes to the ordinance itself.
I didn't hear that.
Trustee Bancole, what changes would you make to the ordinance itself?
The changes that have already been discussed.
Can you walk
But I would
through
also
it?
like to read them over. Well, I can't, because they came from Trustee Gutierrez, they came from Trustee, I mean, if they wanted to speak for themselves, but there's multiple changes that have been talked about tonight, right? And so I'd like to see that. It's feeling a bit rushed. I'd like to see that on paper. I'd like to review it. So maybe this requires an offline discussion, right? Because you've said that you don't have a full understanding of what needs to be changed. So maybe this warrants an offline discussion. So you'd be able, get that information and, you have your direction.
Yeah,
But it doesn't make sense to vote on an ordinance that needs to be changed, that we all have issues with.
I can't have an offline discussion with each of you and then go back, and that's what I'm struggling with here is.
Sorry, you said you can't or you can?
I can't. I can't have a discussion with each of you individually and understand all of the changes that need to be made, and still then have a dialogue about what's needed based on this recommendation. I
don't see it that complex. I see it, we pass this ordinance and then we come back with picking up the time off, if you will, for part-timers.
I'm understanding from Trustee Bancole and Trustee Porter that it's not just the benefit side or the type of benefits. I'm hearing that they have changes to this ordinance parts of this ordinance they're uncomfortable with.
Is that true?
Yeah, there's just part of the language, and again, there's part of the language when we talk about paid leave, when we talk about holiday leave, and I would like to see something that makes a distinction between holiday pay and pay for paid leave, which is discretionary for the employee. I would like to see that distinction clarified so that there's no ambiguity about the difference between the two. That would make me feel a lot better about this. And the fact that it says it establishes a standard for all employees in the village with limited exceptions. So I think that the paid leave standard for all employees should be expanded to include all employees, including or not excluding part-time, seasonal, and interns. I'd like to see that language in there to where they're specifically mentioned as part of the paid leave standard that we're putting forward. Those two modifications.
Does that change anything?
It changes in the reading of the ordinance, which, you know, when it comes down to it, you know, it's, the words have meaning. The words in the ordinance have meaning. They're not just there. They've been very carefully thought out and proposed. I trust Attorney Paul, and I know he's a very competent and discerning professional, and that, you know, he put a lot of thought and effort into those words. So I would
Do we
like
need to take a 5-minute break so we can create that, what you're talking about? So I can see what it is.
I don't think, well, do we have to do that? That's what I'm saying. If we come back with this at the next meeting, let's vote on this, be done with it. Let's do it at the next meeting.
I think this will pass at the next meeting if we cleaned it up, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And I've been speaking
I
with
think it will
Attorney
pass,
Paul. I get a better understanding of it, being blessed to sit next to him and able to understand a little bit better. But I think if we clean that, I think this could very well pass. Syed, what do you think?
I agree with that. Right now, as it's presented, it's a no from me. We can't move forward, or I'm gonna be with the law instead of amendment that we're trying to do. I used amendment instead of oppose or opt out, but we need to have something in writing.
Do we want to take a 5-minute break to
I
create
think
that?
next board meeting would be good. Next board meeting would be good if we come up with something that just make that floating holidays. I'm fine with it. I don't know how other trustees feel about that, but at least there's benefit.
You need a fix, you need a fix.
Yeah,
for the
we're
part-time.
giving that anyways. Why we're sticking to that day? Christmas have to be 25th. Maybe they could use it early on. Use as an emergency. Yes, yes. That giving you flexibility, that will tell me that benefits are better than what the state is telling us. Right now, it's given, Bernie, do you think the benefits are better when you reviewed it? Because Juliana mentioned that you reviewed it and presented attorney review.
This particular act.
Yeah.
Provides.
Are we taking 5 minutes?
No.
No, we're having a discussion here.
Is that what the mayor said?
This particular act provides for up to 5, could even be up to 5.5 or 6. If you actually say that there's 2,080 hours in a year, right? And you divided that by 40 hours, I think you come up with more than 5 days. Is that not
But I don't
correct?
think state is saying you'd have to do more, but you have to do a minimum of 5 or maximum of 5. I don't think you have to do
Well,
more.
I'm just
So
saying that.
1,300 hours will do it for the maximum 5 days.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is that the act provides in many pages of statute for this paid leave. And the paid leave that it provides for, compared to the benefits that the village provides, are not much, but it's something. And the state wants to provide something, especially where there isn't any. And they did provide in that paragraph P for those people who have enacted before January 1, 2024 benefits, that they would be sufficient benefits. You know, that they, then the rest of this act wouldn't necessarily be obligatory upon them. They did provide that. It's really up to you. I mean, clearly, the village board, you know, decides ultimately what people get for leave. You know, they do decide, you know, what is the policy. And so that is always the decision of the village board, no matter what it is, holidays, paid leave just for personal days, paid leave for vacation, paid leave for holidays. You know, that's all decided by the village. And the village over the years has provided it. You know, people might argue, you know, how substantial is it, or does it cover, you know, every nook and cranny? You know, those are things that you can discuss, or whether it ought to cover every nook and cranny. You know, these are all things which are within the purview of the village board. And the requirement of P is that whatever is in place has to be in place prior to January 1. And yes, you do have another meeting, and yes, you are the village board, and yes, you can decide whether you want to do something tonight or whether you want to do something on another night.
Is this board willing to table this till the next meeting, where we can come back with a benefit for the part-timers?
I think most likely this will pass next board meeting.
Okay.
With the amendment.
Yes, yes. Is there a motion to table?
So moved.
Second.
Is it tabled to a certain date?
Next meeting.
December 21st.
Just so that's reflected.
Yep.
Take roll.
Christie, call the roll.
Thank you. Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kunkel?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
And Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Thank you. Boy, that was some dialogue. I hope we can get something together for our part-timers for the next meeting. I heard suggestions from numerous trustees, and hopefully the staff took good notes on that. If you want to reinforce that, please do so. Whew. Man, that was interesting. Where am I? 8A17?
6 o'clock.
Move to pass an ordinance authorizing a vacant land contract and the sale and conveyance of real estate owned by the Village of Hanover Park to two vacant lots, 2144 and 2152 Lake Street. Requires a 3/4 vote of the corporate authorities.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kunkel?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Mayor Craig?
Yes. 8A18. I understand there's a 4-minute video that John's prepared to share, but I'm going to read this. Move to pass an ordinance approving 7 exceptions and a master plan development in the VC-R Village Center Mixed Residential District for a 7.4-acre, 80-unit townhome development at 1830 Lake Street, northwest corner of Church and Lake Street. Do we have a motion?
Move.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion by the board?
Yes, I'd like to know, was this put forward to the Development Commission? Has this come from the Development Commission? Have they reviewed this and put forth this a recommendation?
On 8A18?
Yes.
Yes, yes, you have all of that in your
Okay,
packet.
all right.
So John has a video if we'd like to look at it.
It's the same as you've seen before, but.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't need a video. If the Development Commission has reviewed it and put it forward to the board, then I'm good.
Yes.
We're all good?
We all good.
Well,
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
only the mayor wants to see the video, but that's okay.
We're good.
I'll send it to you later, Mayor.
All right,
Start the construction.
all right. We don't need time for the video.
What can I take roll?
Christie, take the roll, please.
Trustee Porter.
Yes.
Trustee Kunkel.
Yes.
Trustee Brigi.
Yes.
Trustee Husani.
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Trustee Bancole.
Yes.
Thank you. 8819, motion to pass an ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2024 budget in lieu of passage of an appropriations ordinance.
So moved.
We have a
Second.
motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Kunkel.
Yes.
Trustee Brigi.
Yes.
Trustee Husani.
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Trustee Porter.
Yes.
And Trustee Bancole.
Yes.
Thank you. 8820, move to pass an ordinance authorizing the levy and assessment of taxes for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2024, and ending December 31, 2024, in and for the Village of Hanover Park Special Service Area Number 3, Esther Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Brigi.
Yes.
Trustee Husani.
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Trustee Porter.
Yes.
Trustee Kunkel.
Yes.
And Trustee Bancole.
Yes.
Thank you. 8821, move to pass an ordinance authorizing the levy and assessment of taxes for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2024, and ending December 31, 2024, in and for the Village of Hanover Park Special Service Area Number 4, Hanover Terrace, Mark Thomas. Motion?
Moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second.
Trustee Husani.
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Trustee Porter.
Yes.
Trustee Kunkel.
Yes.
Trustee Brigi.
Yes.
Trustee Bancole.
Yes.
Thank you. 8822, move to pass an ordinance authorizing the levy and assessment of taxes for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2024, and ending December 31, 2024, in and for the Greenbrook Tanglewood. We have a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Trustee Porter.
Yes.
Trustee Kunkel.
Yes.
Trustee Brigi.
Yes.
Trustee Husani.
Yes.
And Trustee Bancole.
Yes.
Thank you. 8823, motion to pass an ordinance authorizing the levy and assessment of taxes for the corporate and municipal purposes of the Village of Hanover Park, a home rule municipality, Cook and DuPage Counties, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2024, and ending December 31, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Porter.
Yes.
Trustee Kunkel.
Yes.
Trustee Brigi.
Yes.
Trustee Husani.
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Trustee Bancole.
Yes.
Thank you. 8824, move to approve warrant 1207, 2023 in the amount of $4,005,027.62.
Move. So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Kunkel.
Yes.
Trustee Brigi.
Yes.
Trustee Husani.
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Trustee Porter.
Yes.
Thank you. 8825, move to approve
And
warrant
also
eight-
me.
Oh, sorry, Trustee Bancole. Sorry.
Yes. It's okay.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Sorry.
Apologies, trustee. Where was I? 8825, move to approve warrant paid in advance 10/27/23, 11/29/2023, in the amount of $2,354,384.59.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Brigi.
Yes.
Trustee Husani.
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Trustee Porter.
Yes.
Trustee Kunkel.
Yes.
Trustee Bancole.
Yes.
Thank you. 8826, move to approve warrant. Move to approve October 2023 P cards in the amount of $35,223.44.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Husani.
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Trustee Porter.
Yes.
Trustee Kunkel.
Yes.
Trustee Brigi.
Yes.
And Trustee Bancole.
Yes.
Thank you. Village Manager's Report, Juliana.
Just the monthly treasurer's reports in your packet for October. If you have any questions?
Any questions?
Nope.
Thank
No
you.
other report, thank you.
Thank you. Village clerk's report, Christie.
Just a quick thank you to everybody that helped with the tree lighting, especially despite the rainy weather we had. Huge shout out to Public Works, the fire, police, IT, and all the staff that was involved with that. I appreciate it. We had a decent turnout for the weather, so I'm very grateful that you guys all came out. Thank you for Mission Church for donating all the toys. All the additional toys went to the Boys and Girls Club, Hanover Park Township, and the Village of Carroll Stream got some toys too this year. So very exciting to spread the love. And just a reminder, Santa is in the gazebo next Tuesday night, December 12th from 6 to 7. Bring your kids, furry friends, spouses, and come visit.
Sherry and I will be there with our 2 furry buddies. Trustee reports. Trustee Porter.
He stepped up for a moment.
Oh, he did. Trustee Kunkel.
Yes, I have just a couple things. For Thanksgiving dinners, the Lions had to distribute 30 families in the village of Hanover Park. That was turkey dinner and all the fixings that go with it. Then the SOC met, no dues for next year. That's good news. There was three households with 30 complaints total, 1 in DuPage and 2 in Cook. And the FAA is looking to option B and H. And apparently, the mayor will be sending a letter to the FAA reflecting that. That's all I have.
It's on my desk. Thank you. Trustee, he didn't return yet.
Not yet.
Trustee Trustee Bencoli?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, thank you. The mayor, Trustee Porter, and I were able to attend the National League of Cities City Summit Conference in Atlanta. It was my first out-of-state conference as a trustee, and there was a plethora of information that was provided in workshops, in meetings, learning the knowledge that was learned from the different municipalities all across the country that were present was really valuable. And so, again, thanks again to the board for voting in the affirmative for allowing all of us to attend that conference. Right before Thanksgiving, I was able to volunteer with the Basket Brigade of Suburban Chicago and pack Thanksgiving meals and an assembly line. And I do know that our village was one of the official sponsors for that event. So thank you to our village for continuing that partnership and making sure that the families, actually over 1,000 families, were benefited from those Thanksgiving meals, and some of them were Hanover Park families. So thanks to the village for continuing that great partnership. It got overlooked tonight, but we did also vote on our, oh, sorry, I'm looking the wrong thing. I apologize. I also did want to touch on the fact that I am super proud of our village for the EV readiness award that we received earlier today with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. It was really such a pleasure and honor to participate in that event, and I really am just so proud of our village's efforts. And I also want to wish our Jewish American neighbors a happy first day of Hanukkah. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Herb is back. Herb?
Thank you. First of all, I want to start off by asking, Ms. Gupta was here, Dr. Gupta was here earlier, expressing her concern about the fencing around her property to prevent the vandalism and the graffiti, the dumping and everything that's happening there. And I have listened to her concerns. I've also listened to the position of our staff as it relates to fencing codes and variances. I think everyone that has heard my comments know that I've been trying to figure out where do we reach a happy medium on this, and is there anything that we can do? So my question to the village manager and to the staff is, what is the earliest date that we could conduct a public hearing to discuss putting up a security fence around that property with the Development Commission? What is the earliest that we could do that with notices and things that need to be done? You know, how quickly can we move that forward? Because to do nothing serves no one. And she's indicated that, you know, she's put up security lights. That hasn't worked. I'm not certain that lighting is the answer. I don't think that deters vandals from their activities. She said that, you know, the video cameras that she's installed, that's reactionary. That doesn't stop anyone from doing the damage. It just simply captures it and maybe allows police to arrest or to, you know, to get the ones who are doing it. But it's also, I know, part of our judicial code is that we don't jail minors for property damage. We don't send them to jail. We don't do anything like that as part of our judicial code. So simply capturing it on camera, I don't know, is an effective deterrent or not as effective as a fence would be. And I understand all the arguments as to why we can't just say, go put up a fence. But if the solution is to have a hearing, go through the Development Commission, get the variance to do whatever is necessary, how quickly can we advance that and get that done to try and resolve the situation so that, you know, this doesn't just continue on with no answer in sight?
So we provided Dr. Gupta with all the information, the application, the process, the cost, and the schedule. And she has indicated that she is not interested in going through the variance process.
What is the cost, if I may ask?
I don't know. I mean, it varies. It's an application fee.
$525 for the variance. There's the application fee, which is $525 for the application itself for the variance, but any other cost would be related to sending out certified public hearing notices
I believe it's
within 250 feet.
And is there an estimate, just the ballpark, in terms of what you think that might be?
It really depends on the number of property owners. In this case, it will be very minimal because she's herself the property owner north and west, right, and there's only one shopping center owner to the east, so relatively minor.
In view of the unique nature of this request and the circumstances, what is our ability to waive the application fee for this?
It would not be my recommendation to waive the application fees for this business owner, because I do not believe that there's a unique situation that's different from other property owners that are vacant in town. And I think that that's where we've been struggling, is her request to waive our codes when we apply those codes across.
I'm not saying waive the codes, I'm just saying if.
Well,
if
but part of the code is the
fee,
fees,
yeah.
so. But again, she has told us that she is not interested in going through that process. And she said it here this evening, she does not want to go through a public hearing.
Well, because of the time, I understood her to say because of the time that it would take, the length of the process is what makes her hesitant or reluctant to go through that.
I haven't had a conversation with her.
Well,
I
just from her comments tonight.
I just saw the email that she sent, so.
Okay. I would just like to see us be able, because if she does nothing, then it's going to continue, and place will, I don't know, it will just continue to be an eyesore on the village, which it's been for 5 years or more. It's been an eyesore, and I would just like to see us figure something out. And I understand you've made efforts. I know you've reached out and you've made recommendations and you made suggestions, which have all been, you know, turned back by the property owner.
And I'm happy to have the chief walk through. They had a lengthy discussion with her about the options in terms of curbing the activity that's happened out there. And I'm happy to have him review that with the board as it was relayed to her. That would be okay? Yeah.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I just don't understand her.
Wait. The chief's gonna relay what was.
Oh, Chief's gonna jump in? Okay.
So from 2020 to present, we have 5 police reports for, we have 1 for criminal damage to property involving graffiti. We have 1 for an open door investigation in which the rear door was found unsecured. We have a broken windows from just this past September. We also have the juveniles that she had mentioned that were throwing rocks through windows that were already broken that had been left unsecured for approximately a month against our recommendations for board up. And when we located the juveniles there, they indicated to us that the property appeared to be vacant, and so it was an attraction to them to, you know, go over and check it out. So, you know, I strongly believe that properties that are dark at nighttime, it's clear there's no video cameras, it's clear they're unoccupied, it's clear they appear to be abandoned, they are a target, you know, which is well established in law enforcement, but also, you know, specifically to this property where we've, you know, identified individuals there who told us that was the reason they were there messing around with the property. So, and then just on the 22nd of November, officers located graffiti on the sides of the building. So those are the 5 reports that we have. The police department doesn't have dumping complaints. I know she's mentioned it several times, but there's no reports on file with us for illegal dumping. I do think there's from time to time blowing, you know, debris across Irving that may be collecting there, the kind of stuff that if the business was open, the proprietors would be picking up and things like that. But those 5 are the extent since 2020 that we have there. And so as a result of this last incident, Lieutenant Gordon Hendry, our patrol lieutenant at night, had a conversation with Ms. Gupta and recommended the lighting, recommended the cameras, and, you know, had a discussion with her about that. It didn't seem that she was interested in going that direction and remained insistent on the fence, but we did make those recommendations. And I'd like to also note that extra patrols are continuing there from us. In fact, of the 5 that I mentioned, 3 or 4 of them were found by the officers that were there doing extra patrols. So we are there. Are we sitting on it 24/7, 365? No, certainly not. But we are there with relative frequency.
So Chief, what would, based on your observations and, you know, your experience in law enforcement, you've recommended lighting and cameras. To what degree do you think that will, you know, stop that type of activity?
I mean, certainly it's no guarantee, but it is a deterrent. You know, when it's, I had some photos taken by officers on extra patrols there at night, and it does get relatively dark, and it is easy to, you know, creep around the dumpster enclosure and things like that, and hide in the shadows at nighttime.
Is it boarded? Is it boarded?
It's
now?
boarded. Yeah, it's boarded.
And
correct.
you talked about the ring system.
Yeah, there, in terms of the cost, I know cost has been mentioned, and I certainly understand that. But I think with a ring system in the $500 to $600 you know, neighborhood, and $100 a year for monitoring, I think would accomplish pretty much what we have recommended there. Lighting, you know, there's a cost associated, obviously, with having lights, but some LED lighting around the property, I don't think would be necessarily overly burdensome from a cost perspective. I don't think she would need a real expensive setup there.
So then my final question is that, all that being said, as deterrence, are they as effective a deterrent as a construction fence would be around the property? Is that as an effective a measure to stop this, as, even though I know it's not allowed and you know, and all of the reasons why, but in a hypothetical, would that fence be a more effective way of protecting that property?
Certainly. I mean, I can't sit and say a physical barrier would be less or, you know, of a deterrent than lighting and cameras, but I do think those two would make a big difference.
Okay, thank you.
I think also the question would be is if she, and it's questionable whether, you know, going through the whole variance process, I hate to have her go through that process and come out with not having a recommendation for approval, and I think that that's very likely based on what she has to, you know, that it's I don't know what the word is, but what she has to meet in order to have the variance be recommended and approved is something that she would have to go through and explain and have the Development Commission agree to. But given that, even if they were to recommend the variance for a fence, how long would that fence then be up? Because right now our guidelines are that the fence would be up for up to a year if she was doing construction or had a demolition permit or something, and there would be a definite end to when that construction fence would need to come down. In this case, you have a vacant building that's being marketed. She said here this evening that it's been vacant for 5 years. How long are we going to be willing to have a property with a construction fence around it without any kind of terms? I think that's.
The fence gets tagged anyway.
I was just gonna say, the fence is just gonna be an artist canvas, and it's gonna make it more of an eyesore. I don't think that's the solution. What we have here
Chain
is,
link fence, right? It's not a.
She has requested a fence that you can't see through that's much higher than we allow.
yeah, that to me is an eyesore. This is a broken windows theory problem, and what she needs to do is that we need people there. We need humans there, we need activity there. And the more it stays vacant, you can put anything you want, it's still gonna continue. Kids are gonna come on the other side. They're gonna learn how to get around it. They've tagged it already once, they're gonna keep tagging it. So, and also we have a process in place that should be respected.
And the alternative is that the building, she could apply for a demolition permit and demolish the building and have seed the site, and it would be similar to the other lots that are along that front Lake Street.
It's blighted. It's terrible.
Okay, I just wanted to get some clarification and some information on what the options are. And I think you stated that pretty clearly. So I won't belabor that point anymore, but I did want to officially get a comment on that. Continuing on with my report, on 12/14, I will be attending with the mayor the DuPage County Prayer Breakfast and Christmas Breakfast on the 14th. That's always a great event.
And Christie.
And Christie, I'm sorry, and Christie. To attend that event. So I'm looking forward to that. I've always appreciated and enjoyed that event in the past. As my colleague mentioned, the NLC was very eventful, very insightful, very educational, very informative. I'm thankful and grateful to the board for allowing us the opportunity to go and to meet with our contemporaries and our colleagues from around the nation to talk about best practices and common experiences, challenges that all municipalities are facing. I sat in on the Small Cities Committee where we talked about issues that small cities are facing. We talked about some of the issues coming up with the advent of electric vehicles and charging stations, and how some other communities are addressing that and preparing for that future that is just around the corner. So it was a very good meeting, and I was very pleased to be a part of it. And finally, the tree lighting was excellent. Congratulations and commendations to everyone who had a part, from our fearless director, Christy, to all of the other departments that played a part. It was, in spite of the weather, I think it turned out to be really, really well attended, and I think everyone had a great time. The presents and the gifts, the kids were just beside themselves that they could choose 3 different toys. My grandson is just head over heels with his Buzz Lightyear vehicle and Buzz Lightyear figures. He was in 7th heaven, so I was a hero for that day just by allowing him to go home with the Buzz Lightyear toys. So very well done. Congratulations to everyone who participated in that event. I'd like to wish all of our Jewish colleagues, members of the board and residents a very prayerful and holy Hanukkah, especially in this time when there's so much ethnic hatred that is prevalent in our community. It's really hurtful that the level of anti-Semitism has risen to unforeseen incidents, unimaginable, and by the same token, our Muslim brothers and sisters are facing and experience the same type of hatred and acts. And I never thought that in America we would come to the point where, you know, we are actively as Americans perpetuating and perpetrating acts of violence against our brothers and sisters. As an African American, having gone through some of those things through the racial reconciliation that we have tried to advance over the years, I'm just really hurt to see my fellow Jewish and Muslim brothers and sisters experience that type of vitriol and hate. It hurts my heart, and I give my condolences to to all of those who have lost family members, friends, relatives, countrymen in this violence that has spread from the Middle East and has come to our shores, and is having an impact on our residents and our community. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Herb. Trustee Prigge?
Yeah, I also did the Thanksgiving basket parade, and fortunately we couldn't see the tree lighting because we were in Florida. But we did get to see Woody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it?
Yep.
Thank you. Trustee Husseini?
Thank you, Mayor. So Development Commission was busy. And they had 3 hearings in span of 2 weeks. All 3 of them went through today on the board agenda. And the first one on November 9th was a public hearing held for the cannabis dispensary at 116 Lake Street in the Greenbrook Plaza. It was a good debate, discussion about yays and nays and community getting involved. It was very interesting and good to see and that community get involved and they want to say something about their opinion. And there were more yeses than no. And there was one critical area that we amended the ordinance that we had before in 2022 to make it in a strip mall instead of standalone, which was Development Commission recommended that committee. So there were shared thoughts of what Development Commission has recommended that was amended by the village board. But it is what it is. The board decided majority that they are going to be okay with 500 feet from the school or kids area instead of 1,000 feet that was recommended by the Development Commission. So those thoughts were shared by the committee as well as there were participants from residents shared their yays or nays, and it was a good discussion, but ended up moving forward, and we approved it today. So the second one, same day on November 9th.
It sounds like you feel the Development Commission process is working.
No, Village Override Development Commission, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but what?
Yeah. Yes. What they recommended, we amended it. So that thoughts were shared that, well, not too happy about this, but what can we do? Village approved it. That was kind of, yeah, I didn't say it's working though. So on second hearing the same day was a automatic changeable sign for Park District that's located on 1919 Walnut. So that went through fine without any objections. On November 16th, there was talk about the development that's happening on Church and Lake, 80 units, which mostly it was very, very accepting and exciting and, you know, good discussion. And the Development Commission really reviewed even the material that they're using and the plan and outline, and there was good question Q&As done, very interactive. And that was forwarded to the board as well, and we passed it today. But I do have a compliment for the mayor. I know very few times I come up with that, but I have to. This one is like, we really deserve it. On right next day of Thanksgiving, one of the residents contacted me by email saying their water is shut down, and they have 4 kids, a family were on vacation for 40 days and came back to find out they don't have water at home. All I have to do is send an email and copy mayor on there. He jumped at it, and he really moved from his home right outside the resident's home, waited until somebody came and opened the water. That's something I want to applaud. That's something I really want to applaud, that you don't do that at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock time, and just going out there out of your way to make sure that happens. And you really felt for it, that there's 4 kids involved here and the residents is in pain, and you felt that. And I don't know what magic you have done. I have no clues so far, but you know you have where to pull the strings, and you have done it and made sure they have water the same night within the hour or so. That's really, really good. So thank you, Mayor, for always being available, and the staff that was involved that night. Mayor keeps a secret from me as to who was involved, but whoever that was involved, I'm appreciative of that, and that they came out in an emergency and turned on the water. There was, and Juliana took an action to that following that Monday, and made sure that it's in the highlighter that our residents should know what our process is. So Juliana, thank you for taking that effort and knowing there is an issue and immediately acting on it and making sure the word spreads, that they have provisions, they have options, how to use them, and putting that on a highlighter. So I'm really thankful for that. That's my report.
Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes. I had the privilege to speak at the Coalition for Positive, or the Communities for Positive Youth Development meeting that was held in November, and I was pleasantly surprised. The Hanover Park branch of the coalition was there, mainly from the Park District, and other folks that live in Hanover Park are there. It was held at Trickster, and the coalition, the Communities for Positive Youth Development, received an award from the White House this past November, and they were recognized for their outstanding work in the northwest suburbs, and they are concentrating in Hanover Park as well, so they're doing excellent work. On the 17th, they're having an event. Trickster is, but they're also having a community resource fair and a craft fair, so POC will be there. POC also, thanks to the good works of Representative Fred Crespo, was able to get food for over 50 families, and thanks to a wonderful volunteer by the name of Alberto, who keeps our micro pantry stocked as well. December 16th, Kenneth Young Center is having a Posadas event, and they have a bus that's leaving from POC Hanover Park. On the 16th, it will take you to their Schaumburg office for a children's event, and then bring you back. And so all their information is online at Kenneth Young Center as well. And then finally, I'm excited to be speaking in Chicago tomorrow with Speaker Welch. We'll be there. POC is receiving the Justice Visionary Award for 2023, so I'm very excited to receive that. Thank you. Thank you. And then finally, thank you to the staff and Christy, you always do such a good job for making beautiful Christmas memories. I wasn't feeling the best. I had a bit of a cold, but as I walked away, also thank you, Chief, for taking us back to our cars. As we walked away, I just looked back and I thought, you know, this is what I always wanted as a kid. I grew up in Chicago. You don't have those things, you know. It's big city, lots of buildings, nothing else. And I look back and I see all these lights and I thought, oh my gosh, always looks like a Hallmark movie. So, way to go. So thank you so much. That's it.
Wow. What an evening. One thing I'll say is, this is a wonderful, caring board, and the results are all our dialogue, looking at turning the leaf back 40 times. I believe the outcome will exceed our expectations. So with that, I have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
You're quick on that one.
Aye.
Thank you very much. You're past my bedtime.